Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And tonight I'm making egg rolls for dinner, and so I wanted to show you how to make your own egg roll wraps. It's actually pretty easy. There's only 3 ingredients. You just need flour, just plain white flour, organic if you can find it, preferably without any additives, and water and an egg. That's all you need. And it's not the healthiest bread type thing to make. However, it's still far healthier than the egg roll wraps you can buy in the store. If you ever buy those, take a look at the ingredients. There must be 100 ingredients in those things when you only need 3. And so I learned how to make my own because of that, and plus it's more frugal, and you don't have to worry about if you're in the mood for making egg rolls. You don't have to worry about whether or not you have egg roll wraps on hand. Now this isn't about the filling, but I will talk a little bit about the filling, and the reason I'm not making it about the filling is because I make it different every single time. It depends on what vegetables I have ready. But for now, let's get started on these egg roll wraps. Now if you want, you can do this in a bowl to start with. However, you're still going to have to roll it out on the counter or mess up your counter anyway, so why mess up a bowl? So I'm doing this just a lot the same way I make pasta. Usually I'll put it on a wood, on my wood cutting board, but I just put a cup of flour on the counter. Leave a little bit of flour right there. I don't want it directly on there. And then I'm going to take one of the eggs. My chickens just started laying. Now keep in mind, this is right at the end of January that I'm shooting this video. And so I'm finally getting some fresh eggs from the chickens again. It's been nice. Yeah, so I'm going to crack that egg right in there, just like I would with the pasta. If you haven't seen any of my pasta videos, so go ahead and link to one right up here. I'll be doing more eventually. Now I'm going to pour just a little bit of water to get it started. Okay, and then take a fork and just start mixing your egg in there and pulling that, the egg mixed well, and start pulling that flour in there. Now you're probably going to need a lot more water. Maybe not a lot more, but you're going to need more water. Just start with just about a tablespoon. You could possibly need up to 1/4 cup, which is 4 tablespoons. Okay, just keep working that in there. Keep pulling that flour in. And then as it starts getting really dry, go ahead and add some more water. So when you're making pasta, typically you're going to use a little bit more egg. So this is a little different because you're using egg and water. And that's really all you need. And I use our own filtered rainwater. I always try to say, whenever, you can use whatever water you have, but for health reasons, if you're on city water, especially if they fluoridate, I always recommend trying to find other ways to get healthy water, and that doesn't mean bottled water either. That means, well water, spring water, filtered rainwater, or get a good filter that will filter out all the chlorine and fluoride and stuff, but you have to get special filters to do that. So notice I just kind of keep adding that water in there and keep mixing it. Eventually it's going to start pulling together to where it is, the right consistency for you to knead it. Okay, so now I'm going to start pulling it together, and you're going to knead it just like you would regular bread dough. It's still pretty sticky, but we'll be picking up that flour as we go. And to me, when I'm doing stuff like this, it just makes most sense to put it directly onto the counter. Just keep going until it's smooth and elastic. Typically, it's not going to take as long as doing your yeast bread. And we're just about there. So as you notice, I didn't even add salt to this. It's just the water, the egg, and the flour. If you want, you can add a little bit of salt, but just consider what ingredients you're going to be using, what kind of sauces you might be using with your egg rolls. We're going to be using the spicy plum sauce that I made this last summer, late in the summer, and I have a video on that. I'll go ahead and link to that right up here if you want to find that. And it's, I made that to go specifically with egg rolls and other types of Asian dishes, but I do eat it on other things. It's pretty good stuff. Very spicy though. But you can tailor it to suit your needs. Okay, so once you get it to where it's pretty pliable and you know, it's nice and smooth, then what you're going to do, you're going to want to keep your flour handy. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and get a cup out, and you're going to start rolling this out, the whole thing. You know, technically you're supposed to roll it and do a square. I don't worry about squares. You can do that if you want to be really picky about it. I just roll it out until I can cut it into 12 equal parts. Okay, so basically just make it oblong, and then you want to put 2 cuts. Using a pizza cutter is really good for this. 2 cuts this way, and then you're going to do 3 cuts the other way. Let's see, let's start in the very center. There, 1 there, and 1 there. And it's up to you how picky you want to be on the actual sizes. Obviously, these are completely different sizes. Okay, and then, so we got 12 parts. You can even take a little bit off of that and push them together. Now, this is all the dough you need for 1 egg roll wrap. So make sure you got a nice floured surface. Okay, and then press it out. You can roll these out square if you would like. I don't. I roll it out more roundish like a tortilla or a pie crust. And the rolling out of the dough is the hardest part of making your egg rolls. So as you can see, it's pretty simple in the fact that you've only got the 3 ingredients, but you're working with such a small little bit, and then you're trying to get it rolled out very thin. That's why you've got such a small bit. But it's not that you can't make these thicker. I mean, the Americanized way of making egg rolls, you know, egg rolls in fact are the Americanized way of making spring rolls, really. But because, you know, the Chinese, they don't typically fry their food. But other Asian countries, when they make their own version of this, some of them do. What I was starting to say, the fried versions usually use a little bit thicker of a wrap than your average spring roll, which shouldn't be fried. Now make sure that when you go to stack your egg roll wraps, that you have your egg rolls nicely floured so that they don't stick together. Because I'm not going to be cooking these right away. I always like to get the hard part of my meal, whatever meal I'm making, done early in the day, especially if I've got to shoot a video, because I hate shooting videos later in the afternoon. So they're going to be sitting there for a while, and then they will start getting a little more damp as they sit, and you don't want them to stick together. But anyway, just keep rolling those out. Again, this is the time-consuming process, but it's not that hard, and depending on how picky you are, you do not have to have these shaped, you know, they don't have to be perfect. You can do squares. If you do round, there's a couple of different ways to fold your egg rolls if you're going to do them round or if you're going to do them square. Since I do mine round, I have a little bit different way of rolling them up than I do when I used to buy the square ones from the store. And we'll go over that in a bit. You got to really make sure your counter is floured well between each time you start to roll it, otherwise it will stick, because this is getting thin, so it's going to tear easily. You don't want it to stick at all, so be very careful when you go to pick it up. I keep ripping holes in it because of that. I haven't made these in a while, so I forgot how fragile they are. Anyway, I'm going to keep rolling these out, and when I get them all done, I will come back and show you how to fill and then wrap your egg roll. Well, it happened again. I forgot to hit record when I was shooting the last part of this video, finishing out, rolling out these egg roll wraps and then showing you how to fold them. So it is the next day, and oh well, the egg rolls last night turned out really good, and I guess it's a good idea just to go ahead and make another batch. So I went ahead and rolled out a bunch more just a little bit ago, and now I'm going to show you how to fold them. I did cut one square, and so you can see how you can roll it if you have square ones or if you choose to go square, and then show you how you can also make the square ones. So first off, let me start with this one right here that is kind of, pick one of the ones that's got sort of ugly edges on it. And then simply take your cutter, pizza cutter, whatever, and cut your edges off to make it look somewhat square. Okay, so you're going to be a lot smaller. Now these don't have to go to waste if you decide to go with the square shape and cut the edges off. You can simply just fry these up in the leftover oil once you're done frying up your egg rolls, and then you can have some little chips. So that's one thing you can do with those. So then what you want to do, this is just one way to do it with the square ones. It's the way I like to do it when I'm using the square, is I put the filling in like this, fold the corners in. Notice how I've got a little bit over to this side. So it kind of looks like an envelope, and then just roll it. Now this is, you see, this is going to be a small one. Take a little bit of water and wet down the corner. You can use egg too, but I prefer water. And then there you go. Okay, and let me show that again. Take the filling, and I'll talk about the filling here in a little bit, what I've got in this. This is the second day, so it's a little bit different. I made this one a little bit different than the one I did last night. Still has fresh kale from the garden though. Winter time, we're still getting kale. It never stopped growing because we didn't have a very harsh winter. There, and so I have two smaller ones. Okay, so now let's move on to the round ones. Okay, and now actually it's a good idea, if these are going to sit on your plate for a while, sprinkle a little bit of flour on there and also on top of your egg rolls if you're going to be stacking anything on top of them. Okay. So now, when I do the round ones, this is the shape I'm going to most likely do, then I put my filling, again, kind of off to the side, fold in the outside edges and fold in this, and then roll it. Take your little bit of water, spread it on there. That's just going to basically glue it in place, and there you go. I'll do one more, but I'm not going to roll anymore now because I don't want to stack them at this point because it's still very early in the day. It's actually still morning, and I don't want too many done up and have them end up, because the filling will end up kind of seeping through and cause them to stick together, which of course is why you want to put the flour on there. But anyway, if I just have one layer, it's going to be okay, but what I want to do is I want to stack these. Okay, fold, fold, roll. You saw me wet down the edges, and there we go. Okay, so there's 4 ready to cook. Okay, so if you're not going to roll these up right away and you have them all made up, because I like to get the hard stuff done early in the day so the rest of the cooking process for dinner is just super simple. Make sure you cover them. Even just throwing a double layer towel over it is going to help, because what's going to happen is that one on the top, it's going to get dried out if you don't cover it, and you won't be able to roll it and shape it because it'll get brittle. So keep it covered. You can even throw another plate over the top of it. Now let's talk a little bit about the filling. The filling that I use here, and this was mostly supposed to be about the wraps themselves, because your filling can be whatever you want it to be. I always go with whatever vegetables I have on hand, but some of the things I like to always make sure is in my filling are onions and some kale or cabbage or both. I just really think those are good, sliced up small, kind of shred them a little bit. And I really like carrots in there, but definitely garlic and ginger, and then I like to saute it in a little bit of my homemade wine, some sesame oil, and maybe even throw a little bit of the Bragg's or liquid aminos or the coconut aminos. Those are a couple of good options. If you decide to use neither of the coconut aminos or the Bragg's liquid aminos, then I recommend putting in a little bit of salt. But you definitely want your ginger and your garlic in there. Some other options are to throw in some sesame seeds and just kind of toast them along with the rest of it as you're sauteing it. I also have some grass-fed ground beef in this mixture. And yesterday when I made it, I had red cabbage. This one, again, it's got the fresh kale from the garden. And then some other options are bean sprouts. Bean sprouts are really good in your egg rolls. And also to get some water chestnuts and chop them up kind of small so you can get that little bit of crunch in there. Every once in a while I like to splurge and do that. But typically I just like to work with whatever I have on hand. And you can nix the meat. You can make them all vegetarian on the inside. Now if you're gluten-free, I would recommend trying at least with a smaller amount, maybe go up to only a half cup to see how it turns out when you roll them and when you cook them. But I would think a blend of half and half rice flour and either tapioca starch or arrowroot powder would be a good option to use. I haven't tried it for making egg roll wraps, but it could work. And I'm sure if you're gluten-free and you've been doing it for a while, you could probably come up with some other ideas. We're not gluten-free, but what I do know is that blend of the half and half with the tapioca starch or arrowroot powder, pretty much the same thing, and then the rice flour makes a really great batter for doing like orange chicken, or to put on the chicken, or even fish. It's really, really good. It makes a really light, fluffy batter for frying. But that's a batter, not actually a dough where you're making a wrap. So how it's going to hold up is going to be different. But I recommend giving it a try and see if it works. And I almost forgot, let's go over how to fry them. You want your heat pretty hot. I do not measure how hot it is. I don't keep track of that. I just know I want it hot enough. I know when you could take one of these small little pieces and throw it in there. If it starts frying right away and starts bubbling, it gets kind of a bubbly appearance on the top and starts turning brown, then you know it's hot enough. If within a few seconds it turns dark brown, it's too hot. But what I like to do is I like to fry in coconut oil, mostly, with throwing a couple splashes of the sesame oil in that too, because it's going to add a really nice flavor into the egg roll wrap, just like using it in the mixture. And I'll link to this below. I get mine on Amazon because it's really hard to find a good sesame oil in a high quantity like this local, so I have to order it on Amazon. But my guess is you could probably find some in your local Asian food store or even your health food store. So check those if you have anything like that there, which we don't. But we just have one store. That's all we have. And sometimes they carry quite a bit of great stuff, but I'm always looking for bulk, and I like to buy my sesame oil in bulk like this. And it's just, I use it every time I cook anything that's got an Asian flair to it. And don't forget to check out the plum sauce recipe, because that is what I served with the egg rolls last night. That is the main reason I made the plum sauce, and I'll be serving it with those again tonight. Okay, and since I'm not cooking these up right away right here, I'm going to go ahead and start showing you some pictures of the ones I made up last night so you can see how they look, or how at least they should look when they're done. So there you go. I hope you'll give it a try and that you'll enjoy it as much as we do. And I hope you learned something new in this video. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.